we have to come to that agreement that it's a magical thing that happens between people with the right heart for kids and the right heart for their subject and good training. And we're never going to be able to pin it down unless we kill it.
Welcome back to Teacher Tales, where we give you the keys to overcoming teacher burnout to find work-life balance and educational bliss if it still exists. On this episode of Teacher Tales, we learn that the true magic of teaching lies in the passion and hearts of educators. Abstract thinking and personal experiences help students connect with material, and finding personal fulfillment in one's career is crucial for a rewarding and sustained educational experience. Donna, welcome to the show. Good to have you on.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. You said so many nice things, so I'm looking forward to our wonderful episode that we're going to have here. And of course, we have to start at the beginning. So, how long have you been in education? What do you teach? What roles have you had and that you are currently in?
So this year is going to be my 30th year. I'm super excited. I counted as 30. Now, I'm one of those people that also, I never changed from a kid when you were 15 and said you're 16 or almost 16. So I'm counted as 30, even though technically, really, by the state, it would be my 29th because they didn't count my half year that I got, that I was 2 short days away from counting the whole year. That one hurt, Tony. That one hurt. But so officially, it'll be my 29th this year. And I've mostly taught middle school. I started out as a student teacher and in the observer in college, in high school, junior AP and senior AP. And I've taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I've worked a lot with the high school kids in test prep courses for SAT, ACT, and PSAT, like after school and on the weekends through the district. I've been probably the last 20-ish years in 8th grade English, usually advanced, but I've done all levels. For a short time, I spent a short stint when I thought I might need to make more money, and I got my master's degree in principal certification at one point, and I was being department chair. So I was department chair of a group of 24 fabulous teachers at the largest junior high in the state, and that was awesome. I did that about 3 years, and I realized I really like kids a whole lot more than I enjoy trying to wrangle adults. So I just kind of stopped being department chair, went back full time into the classroom, and I've just never looked back. I've had a really blessed and wonderful career.
So, number one, I always say that English is the most difficult subject to teach. I originally was going to be an English teacher, and I am so glad that I am not, because it's hard. It's hard. Now, I think there's a lot more. I'm not going to say there's a lot more work, right? I don't want to get crucified here. But when you start talking about the essays and stuff, I'm out. I take my hat off to every English teacher.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I say that about math teachers because without a calculator, I'm lost. But I do tell the kids it's the nuance in English, I think, that makes it so much fun, because we don't deal with all concrete facts. We deal with both concrete and abstract, and the abstract ideas are really what light the fire for English teachers and hopefully light the fire for the kids. So it's a challenge, but it's also, I think each of us in our subjects face our own, hill to climb, so to speak.
Yes, 100%. That abstract, I think, it doesn't just help the kids, but it helps us too, because we can say, oh, well, I had this experience in my own life. I can help bring it to life and then help connect to my kids. And then if they've had that same kind of experience, now we're connected in a way that you wouldn't have been able to get to in a lot of maybe other different content areas. So that abstract is very important to me too, because I use it in my classroom.
I totally agree. And I'll tell you what, Tony, I almost think the whole concept of an abstract situation is what contributes to teacher burnout and
Mm,
contributes to a misunderstanding of education across our nation. Because what we want from education is concrete proof that our kids are learning, right?
right.
So we try to provide that with testing and with programs that we can put out a piece of paper that proves. But education, and what I love about it is it happens in the abstract. The learning
Yes.
happens in an exchange between young people and a teacher that is somewhere in the air between their faces in that classroom. And it's about heart, it's about a passion, it's
Mm,
about a topic, and it's in those moments when something clicks in a kid's head. I can't snap a picture of the light in their eyes and provide that as proof, like the state and sometimes our parents want. All I
mhm,
can tell you is where the real magic is, it's never measurable. It's
yep.
what keeps the teachers in the classroom. It's what makes us our best and helps the kids become their best. And when we start trying to pin it down, it's almost like a beautiful butterfly that we pin to a canvas that no longer moves. And so I think
Mm,
part of our frustration as educators and part of the frustration of the nation of not being able to look in the window and see and prove that we are actually teaching. At some point, we have to come to that agreement that it's a magical thing that happens between people with the right heart for kids and the right heart for their
mhm,
subject and good training. And we're never
mhm.
going to be able to pin it down unless we kill it. Right. So,
That is such a beautiful analogy. Give us the breadcrumbs of how you became a teacher. How did you get to this place?
so I think I grew up in a family of four. I have two older
Mhm,
sisters and a younger brother, and we played school a lot. We were out in the middle of the country, so we had to play with each other or fight with each other. And I think from my early years that I can remember, I always wanted to be a teacher, but we didn't have a
mm,
lot of money growing up. And I remember around 15, age 15, my mom said, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, a teacher. And she said, okay, Donna, but just know they don't make a lot of money, which is the kiss of death to kids. Some reason we raise our
yes.
kids and their idea of success is money. And so, and plus, since I was from a poor family, I didn't know how I was going to pay for school anyway. So it was pretty easy to let go of that dream and just say, okay, I'm going to go into business. I'm going to find a job. And back then, it was easy to get into a company, work hard, get promoted. And if you worked hard enough, you could really succeed. And I was pretty successful in my, at 18 and through my early 20s.
Mhm,
And I had a very cushy where I was, but I realized the part of the job I enjoyed was where I was teaching new hires how to work the databases or do their job. And I was making good money, but money doesn't buy me happiness. And I had to experience that for myself. So I went
mhm.
back to school, got my degree, lost my secretary, lost my 2 hour lunches. And I joke with the kids, that's the thing I miss is the 2 hour lunches because we have to
Man.
eat awful fast. But oh my goodness, what I gained when I gained the blessing of 120, 180 kids every year. I've never
Mhm.
looked back. And I think when it is what you want to do for your life and it is your passion, you are living the greatest possible life on earth because you really do get to not just impact kids' futures, but have in your life every year these amazing human beings. So you're very blessed. I'm blessed more by them, I think, than they will ever be by me.
Yeah, like you, it was like, when I was doing those other jobs, and you get to train people, and you get to show them how things work, and you see the light bulb go off, and then you see them become really good at what they do. You're like, "Yep."
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like you, it was like, "Huh." Those were always the moments that I enjoyed the most. So, you've been teaching for 30 years. What has been one of your welcome to the classroom moments? That could be at the beginning of your career, that could be you were teaching a different subject, something that you hadn't taught before, and something really jumped out at you. So what was one of those? Oh, okay, yeah. I'm a teacher this year doing this thing.
it's funny you say that because two things come instantly to mind. We all have our positives and our negatives day to day in education. And I think we come out of, especially when we go through a degree program to be an educator, we come out thinking we're fully prepared because we have been well trained. And so we're really ready for the first day. And I remember my very first job I got because I graduated in December. It's harder to get hired.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting hired to replace teachers that left mid year, basically.
Yeah.
And
For
so
one
I
reason
was
or
hired.
another.
Right, right. I was hired to replace a teacher in a seventh grade classroom. And I didn't know that they worked in teams of teachers. And that was the fourth teacher. They worked in teams of 5. That was the fourth teacher of the team to have left.
Ooh.
So I had kind of stars in my eyes about what my first day would be, my very first day in a classroom. And about halfway through the day, I found myself on top of my desk yelling, "Sit down," because those kids had been, in such turmoil and turnover, and so
Mhm.
many teachers had left them, not loved them enough to stick it out with them. That was really my eye-opening moment of, ooh, maybe I'm not as prepared as I thought I was. It's a little different when you have real live little teeny tiny
Mm.
30 human beings running around that also are finding their way in the world and fighting for control of themselves and where they want to be. And so that was a real turning point for me because I realized, one, yelling sit down doesn't help.
Mm.
And so I took some time there to build some relationships and turn that class around. And I learned so much that year. So that also brings the positive part of that. I have found that in the toughest circumstances, in
Mhm.
the darkest moments, and sometimes that's a really tough class. Sometimes it's just a really tough year with a lot of mandates and things people are
Mhm.
rolling out. And you've been doing this 20 years and all of a sudden you have no idea everything's upside down because they changed it. Sometimes it's a particular student or a parent or administrator, but in
Mhm.
those darkest moments, there are people in the field of education that are so committed, that have committed their lifetime to
Mhm.
helping kids, that you are surrounded like soldiers, in a squad or in a troop in
Mhm.
battle. You are surrounded by people that no matter what, they're going to lift you up on their shoulder and carry you out of that fire. And they're going to help you see the end, right? And help you figure out how to bob and weave through the minefields.
Mhm.
And that's a huge blessing too.
Take us to some of those fires, some of those minefields that you speak of. Um, what happens when we start to, or when you start to feel burnout? Is there a situation in particular where you was like, that was really tough? And then how did you feel in that instance?
I think it's interesting. And I think sometimes we easily mislabel the trigger for our burnout. And I don't know if it's
Yep.
because the easiest or if it's because the nature of the profession. We all, I think, joined education recognizing we would get paid a little less. That's not an
Mhm.
excuse for it. And the fact that we joined it knowing we would get paid less, I see that a lot on Facebook. I hear it a lot. You knew what you were getting into. That's an excuse and it should never be used, because if we love our kids and want to put them first, pay is critically important to getting the best in this field, not the
Mm.
average and not the leftover people that can't find anything else. And I'm not saying, anything negative, but you know what I mean? I want to be
Yes, I
paired up
do.
in my halls with the very best for kids, just like I want to go to the very best doctor. So I think a lot of
Mhm.
times it's easy to say pay, and pay is critical. And I don't want people to think that's um, something to blame, though. I also think a lot of times it's easy to say, well, teachers burn out because of the kids or the parents. And I'll be honest, having done this for, 30 years now, when I see real burnout, it is triggered by some things that the states do, some things that the
Mhm.
districts do, and some things that our administrators do. And I always tell my kids, there are things outside of your control. We were just talking about this for self
Yep.
respect and respect. You cannot control if somebody is disrespecting you. but you can control your response to it, right? Because if you have enough self-respect, you will not lower yourself to that standard of serving them right back with disrespect. You will walk away because that's beneath you. You treat others with respect. And I feel like with teachers, what happens is we get those pressures from the state that comes down through the district, and the district always has to add little extra twists. They're trying to hold people accountable so they have proof in their job and things to think about and talk about in their job. They're doing their best for kids too, though. Same with administration on the campus. We can easily lose sight of the fact that it's a battle for the best for kids, and everybody in their role, all the way up to the state, is truly doing what is in their heart is right for kids. It just all tumbles down onto the head and shoulders of the teacher. And I think it's easier to complain, and I think it's easier to blame, kids, parents, a single moment, because we feel like we can't address and fix the systematic troubles throughout. And it's a big monkey, to be sure, to wrestle with. But
Yes.
one of the things I say to teachers all the time, and then I have found has helped me not burn out in all these years, is a willingness to speak up for yourself. I think as a teacher, we feel like we're the last on the ladder and we have no voice. But that only feels worse when you aren't willing to say to an administrator or to the district or through emails or voting or joining organizations to the state. When we aren't vocal about, I found this unacceptable, or this is too much, how can we fix it?
Yes.
It's not enough to complain, because complaining creates negativity. Creating actually builds that negativity throughout the community, but it's not fixing anything. So I always tell my kids to solve the problem. I want them to learn how to get up for themselves, get back in the game and solve the problem. I encourage teachers to do that too. And it's something that changed in me probably after I became department chair, where I started to feel like I had a voice. And I realized it doesn't matter where I sit at this table, even if I'm on the teacher chair. I have a voice. I just need to be unafraid to use it. And I think one way I fought burnout is realizing that everybody is doing their best, that I'm surrounded by in every role they play, even though they're frustrating me. That state can sure frustrate me. But I started joining committees so that I could be a part of those decisions and have a voice, right?
Yeah, there's so much that is out there that can be done that I think a lot of people run from the responsibility because that responsibility comes with a level of maybe a little risk. So yeah, I'm grateful for people like you, Donna, that are jumping on those committees and saying, okay, some of these things are not right, or maybe not right. Some of these things could be done better. Or, hey, state, you need a little bit more perspective on this. I work out in rural Texas that we have different problems than the people in HISD. So I need to be able to voice these things. And from there, I think as people get more perspective, then we can make better decisions that include more people. The more perspective we can all have, I think the better our schools will be. So I want you to shout some people out if you can, by name or not by name. Who are some of those people that helped you through these areas of burnout? Like you talked about the coach talking to that kid. Who are some people who were able to talk to you and go, no, Donna, we're going to do it this way. And this is going to really help you. And it did.
Well, I've been blessed, and I've had more people than I could possibly name. One of the first great leaders that I experienced that truly saw it still from a teacher's perspective, and I believe she is meant to lead kids and adults. Pam Grapsky she was one of my first assistant principals when I moved to this Houston area, and she's one of those deep thinkers that help you go beyond the profession and see the balance in your life and see what are you bringing to the table in this classroom or in this school from home, and how can you help yourself maintain the balance and think more
Yep.
clearly, not just as an educator, but also as a human being on this planet. So she's one of those wise individuals somehow that can can coach and mentor, I think, anyone on the planet. And she did that so many times. Her favorite saying was, let's put into the piggy bank. Let's put some coins in there with parents, with kids, with each other, so that
Hmm.
when we need that moment of grace, or when we're having
Yes.
that moment and we take out those pennies that we put in, there's still plenty in there, to hold us afloat. And I watched her do that for so many people. Um,
Mm.
After I left being a department chair, I had some of the best department chairs I've ever had in my life. And I think that's another critical thing for teachers to realize too. It's okay to change roles within education.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
perfectly acceptable I had an admin that was fabulous that had been a principal, and he stepped back down to an AP position because he knew that's where he could rock it the best, right?
Hmm.
Um, Tyler Baird comes to mind as my department chair, who I can't tell you how many times when I was having passionate, strong feelings and not in a happy place, he listened to me and he helped me see the best
Mm.
path to take out of that, right? Um, and I think appreciating, especially, you get more burned out the years you go in, it becomes more frustrating. But what tends to happen is teachers get complacent too with themselves. And so, what I've always found exciting, I make it a point to get to know my new teachers. They're going to bring some
Mm.
fresh ideas. They're going to make me feel new. I'm going to see in them that spark and light and excitement that I had 30 years ago, my first few weeks. And I'm going to learn a lot from them, a lot. And then I also challenge myself every few years, at least every 2 to 3 years. I try to shake it up big. So
Ooh.
at one point, probably about 10 years ago, I decided I would try flexible seating, even though flexible seating is not my jam. I'm a straight row girl. And I know this about myself. And I twitch when they're not straight. So I said, okay, next year, to wake yourself up, because kids love it and you haven't been brave enough to do it, you're going to do it. And then this year, I challenged myself by moving to a whole new school after 21 years. And that's probably been the biggest challenge I've ever
Whoa.
given, but it's also been the biggest blessing. And so being unafraid to accept change, embrace change, to try new things, and seeking out those, because you're going to have them everywhere, those people who aren't just friends that will listen to you vent, but are people you can respect enough that they give you guidance and they love and care enough about you to pour themselves into you as well as the kids.
I love it. The relationships that we build make the world of difference.
Mhm.
Teacher that's listening, um, I would implore you to get out of your classroom, go across the hall, go down the hall. Even better, the better thing that you could do, go to somebody who's not in your department
Mhm.
and make some friends, build some relationships. Because, like you said, when you put those coins in, and now it's time to take some out because you need somebody to help you at a dance, or you need to switch duty with somebody, or you need to do one of the plethora of things that we're all being asked and called to do. Okay, sometimes you're going to need some help. No, a lot of times you're going to need some help. And if you don't know people, it's really hard to send that email and try to get a response. So go build the relationships within your school, in your department, of course, outside of your department, definitely, and with admin as much as you can, because we all got people that we like and maybe not like as much, but you want as many people on your side that you at least have some kind of baseline relationship with. When things start to happen, you got some people that you can call. And
I,
when they call you, it's not like, well, I don't know who that person is, so I'm really
right.
not going to help because I'm busy.
I so love what you just said about outside your department too. It is,
Mm.
especially in secondary, it is really easy to get
Yes.
cornered into, and we're usually separated in halls anyway, but we get cornered into just those people that teach our subject. And the beauty of going beyond those walls, and it's interesting to me because Sometimes I get a shocked reaction a little bit when I'll pop into a new science teacher's room after school and say, "Hi, I'm Donna Meyer. I'm upstairs." Whatever the
Yep.
case may be. I I learned I was very lucky, Tony. My third year as a teacher, I got a student teacher, and I didn't know what to do. It's kind of crazy how they'll give those to just anybody. I was only a third year teacher. And I asked my principal, what do I do? Because she is going to take over my class at some point. And the principal said, I don't really care. You can go home. You can do what you need to do. Don't worry. Well, I thought, I'm going to see every teacher on this campus. We had, I think, 160 teachers.
I
I said,
love
you know
that
what I'm going to
idea.
do every time I get out of that room, I'm going to go see a different teacher. Tony, the professional development I got and the
Mhm.
professional development we get from each other in 10 minutes versus a whole day by the
Mm.
state or the district, it changed my whole life as a teacher. I learned every trick in the trade from science, history, math, football coaches, band. And I felt so connected to everybody because one, I wanted to be a student in their class. So even after that purposeful, intentional, I'm going to come hang out, I still make it a point to
Yep.
visit in if they'll let me. I always make sure they're comfortable, because some teachers aren't yet, and that's okay too.
Mhm.
But the
Mhm.
more comfortable you can get with somebody being in and watching you and you watching them, that's when we get, especially when it's not administrative, right? Because they have to observe us for
Yes.
PDOS. Well, that's uncomfortable and that's your boss. But when you can have a peer come hang out, or you can hang out in their class and you're willing to accept feedback from them and they give you their tricks of the trade, whoo, that will be life changing too.
Fellow educator, that is part one of my interview with Donna Meyer. She shared so much great information that I just was like, all right, let's just break this thing up into two parts. Because y'all know me, I can ramble. And she can as well. And she is awesome at it. Before we get out of here today, remember the intangible elements that make teaching more than just a job. Those are the things that really touch all of our hearts, and try not to miss those things as you go through your career as an educator. Also, discover some practical tips for maintaining passion and avoiding burnout in the education field. Find those things that you can move around, to make your life better. Because just like Donna talked about, it's not just about your life inside the classroom as a teacher, as you become a better person, as you figure out things personally, those things are going to affect us in our field. Because you enjoy what you heard from this episode, go join the Teacher Triumphs Facebook group. Me and Jen created it as a way to help you overcome burnout and balance life by building community with other wonderful educators. Thank you for listening. Keep teaching, keep learning, and I will see you all on the next journey.